This is the Main Street Preps High School Football Wrap-Up Show, brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans, don't let fans drive drunk.
Welcome into another edition of the Main Street Preps High School Football Wrap-Up Show. I'm Chris Yao, and we are presented each week by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, where they remind you that fans don't let fans drive drunk. A lot of great football played this past weekend. We're going to tell you what happened as we make our way around the Main Street Preps coverage area with several of our writers. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. We'll start in Robertson County with David Wilson.
Hey everybody, this is David Wilson, sports reporter for the Robertson County Connection, here to give you a quick recap of all the Round 2 playoff games across the Robertson County area this week. We entered Friday night with 3 Robertson County teams still left in the chase to get to Chattanooga and compete for a gold ball. And as we reach the quarterfinal round and start that this upcoming week, 2 teams will still be in the hunt. We'll start things off in Paris, Tennessee, where Springfield, the number 4 seed in the Class 5A playoffs, goes on the road and defeats Henry County by a final score of 20-17. The Yellow Jackets get some revenge over their nemesis from Region 7 5A and move on to the quarterfinal round where they will face Beach. Henry County had beat Springfield in the 2021 and 2022 playoffs and ended their trip or their quest for a state championship. So Springfield, who lost to Henry County earlier this year in Springfield 23-22 on a last-second field goal, gets some revenge and keeps their momentum going this week. Kason Woodson tallied the game-winning touchdown run 12 yards out in the third quarter. Jaden Hurst had 92 yards rushing and a touchdown, and then Jabraylon Ellis, who had a big week last week against Mumford, continued to be one of the primary targets for Kason Woodson this week. He had 3 catches for 42 yards and 1 touchdown. Defensively, Keenan Chapman Jr. led the way for Drew Wilson's defense. 8 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. Springfield catching fire here, and as I mentioned, they will go to Shackle Island next week. Moving on, White House Heritage, for the first time since 2015, is headed to the quarterfinals, and some more history for the Patriots as head coach Scott Murray, who is in his 13th year as a head coach across various stops across the mid-state, is headed to the quarterfinals as a head coach for the first time in his career. They picked up a 35-13 win over Liberty Creek on Friday night on the Hill in White House. Xavier Murray was 27 of 33 passing for 248 yards, 3 touchdowns. He threw 1 touchdown apiece to his trio of senior wide receivers. That would be Dason Springer, Price Payne, and Eric Lopez. Springer led the receiving corps with a game-high 9 receptions for 73 yards. Cale Hunt also had a big day running the football for the Patriots, 142 yards, 2 yards on the ground on 27 carries. He also had 4 catches for 48 yards. Dree Williams, Mason Eckhart, and Jacob Mahoney each had over 10 tackles for the Patriots defense. They will welcome 3-time defending runner-up in Class 3A, East Nashville, to the Hill next Friday night in the Class 3A quarterfinals. And then finally, East Robertson, who made the Blue Cross Bowl last year in 2A. Their quest to get back to Chattanooga and Finley Stadium has fallen short. They lost to Marion County by a final score of 49-18 on Friday night. Marion County jumped out early on this one and led 28-10 at the half and added 3 more scores in the second half. Both of East Robertson's touchdowns came via the air. Kason Young threw a 45-yard touchdown pass to Zach Groves in the second quarter and hit Cade Brooks on a 20-yard strike in the third quarter. The 49 points allowed is the most that the Indians have given up under third-year head coach Chase Brooks in his entire tenure up in Cross Plains, and has the most points they have given up in a game since October 2nd of 2020. This was a team that has dealt with adversity all year. They lost defending Mr. Football winner and running back Isaiah Groves the first week of the year to a torn ACL, and their quest, as I mentioned, to get back to the Blue Cross Bowl to try to win their first football state championship falls short in the second round to the same team that they beat last year in the second round, Marion County in Jasper, Tennessee. So that'll do it this week on the edition of the Roundup. Looking forward to talking to you guys next week as we break down some quarterfinal football.
David, as always, thanks so much. Blaine Kellar has your Sumner County report.
4 Sumner County teams entered the second round of the TSSAA football playoffs. Only 2 remain. as we enter the quarterfinals. I'm Sumner County Sports Editor Blaine Kellar, here to break down some scores and give you a quick glance going into the third round of the postseason. The area has doubled its quarterfinal representatives from a season ago. Last year, Liberty Creek was the lone team to play in the quarterfinals. This year, Beach and Westmoreland will be represented. The Wolves of Liberty Creek saw their season ended the second round, as did Station Camp. Let's go ahead and take a look at how those teams ended their years, how some continued it into next week. Westmoreland won 26-0 in a rematch with Monterey. The Eagles picked up a sweep of Monterey this season. The Wildcats were riding high on a long winning streak, but so was Westmoreland, now on its way to the Class 2A quarterfinals against 10-2 Marion County, which knocked off reigning state runner-up East Robertson last week. Beach, the other team that continued its season, winning 49-19 against Southwind. The Jaguars knocked off the Buccaneers a year ago at home in the Class 5A second round. Beach gets its revenge this year thanks to 4 touchdowns from Shelton Swafford and 3 touchdowns from Caden Powell. Power 4 prospect Quan Harris had a pretty impressive game as well, taking in a 50-yard touchdown reception. He also had a couple of pass deflections. Secondary played really well, going up against Class 5A Mr. Football semifinalist Calvin Perkins, who, by the way, had close to 400 yards and 7 touchdowns in this game a year ago. Southwind only manages 3 touchdowns on Shackle Island. Beach moves on to rematch Region 7 5A opponent Springfield at home. Tyler Thompson, another Mr. Football semifinalist, this one in Class 4A. He had a game against Station Camp, 3 touchdowns, as Marshall County won 52-13. The Bison have relied at times on their passing game this year, but did not complete a passing touchdown. Had just 2 rushing scores for their touchdowns against the Tigers, who remained undefeated on the year. They move on to take on Pearl Cone in the quarterfinals. And lastly, Liberty Creek, as I mentioned, their season came to an end 35-13 against White House Heritage. Couldn't bottle up the passing attack of Scott Murray and his son Xavier. Mac Tuggle continued battling through injuries. He scored a touchdown as part of their offensive showing, but not enough to move on to the quarterfinals for a second straight year. Liberty Creek reaches the second round, sees its season come to an end. That's a bit of a tongue twister. White House Heritage moves on to face East Nashville. Just 2 teams left going into the quarterfinals. As always, we'll have coverage of both as part of Main Street Preps, the Hendersonville Standard, and the Gallatin News. We'll see you there, and we'll see you back here getting ready to preview those quarterfinal games.
All right, it's time for our first break of the day. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on the Main Street Preps High School Football Wrap-Up Show. We'll be right back in just a moment.
He shoots, and he scores!
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
Welcome back into the Main Street Preps High School Football Wrap-Up Show presented by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Once again, I'm Chris Yao, and I'm just going to take you around the Main Street Preps coverage area to each of our writers. find out what happened over the weekend in high school football. We continue on now, and we'll go to Dickson County, where Casey Patrick has a report.
Hi, my name is Casey Patrick. I'm a sports reporter for the Dickson Post and the Cheatham County Exchange. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the only football game I had to cover last week. Sycamore, they were the last team alive out of the teams in my coverage area. They traveled to East Nashville. It was a battle of the Eagles. The War Eagles, of course, traveling to battle the Eagles. Sycamore hung in there for a while. The first half, they had a chance. I believe it was about a 28-14 game. Sycamore was charging late in the first half, was going to make it a one-score game, but a fumble turned into an 85-yard return, and that was almost all she wrote. East Nashville will go on to score a few more touchdowns in the second half to make it 48-14, but that's Sycamore's season. It comes to an end. Hicks Hunter with another phenomenal night. My count may not be correct, but I had 178 yards on 27 carries. He scored both of the touchdowns for the War Eagles. But Sycamore, back-to-back years in the playoffs, and really had a pretty good run there at the end this year, including a little bit of revenge over Stratford in week 1 of the playoffs. So with that, that's all of my teams for the football season. And we'll see you all around. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Casey. All right, moving on down south, we'll go to Maury County, where Maurice Patton is standing by.
Hey, I'm Maurice Patton, sports editor at Main Street Murray. We only had one high school football playoff game in the area this week, but man, was it a doozy. Monte Baldwin scores from 54 yards out on the third offensive play of the game. Columbia Academy never slowed down from there, rolling to a 56-21 victory over visiting Trinity Christian to advance in the Division 2A playoffs. Baldwin finished with 196 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns on 21 carries, all in the first half. Scored from 4 yards out late in the first quarter, added a 3-yarder in the second quarter. Stephen Neves with a couple of rushing touchdowns as well, and threw a 40-yarder to Harrison Brownlee for a score. It was all Columbia Academy in the first half, and with a running clock based in part on one of the better defensive plays you'll see. I wish I'd been able to get it on video. Jake Ballard batted a Trinity Christian pass into the air inside Trinity's 5-yard line. Jax Hickerson dives for it, catches it in the end zone to push that lead to 50-7 at the half. Zane Nash scores on the opening series of the second half as you've got a running clock there. And again, Columbia Academy was lights out all night. Trinity Christian scored twice in the second half, but really was kept pretty meaningless by that point. Final score again, Columbia Academy 56, Trinity Christian 21. CA advances to the D2A state semifinals for their second straight year. We'll talk more about that later this week. But again, another big night out of Monte Baldwin, and he goes up over 1,750 rushing yards on the year, closing in on his first 2,000-yard season. We'll be keeping an eye out for that as they head into the state semifinals for second straight year. A game short of a trip to Chattanooga. Check back next week, later this week, as we get you ready for that state semifinal matchup. Again, I'm Maurice Patton, sports editor at Main Street Murray. We'll see y'all. All
right, now we go to Wade Neely, who has both your Giles and Lawrence County reports.
What's up, folks? Wade Neely here, sports editor at the Pulaski Citizen. Time for a recap of the round that was, talking about round 2 in the TSSAA state playoffs. Giles County and Richland were both in action, and 2 dramatically different ball games, but 2 dramatically entertaining ball games, especially if you are a fan of the Richland Raiders. We begin in Linville, where the Richland Raiders, for the first time since 2005, had picked up their first playoff victory, and Richland cruised to yet another win, knocking off McEwen, a team with an identical 8-3 record, 35-0. Richland now again 9-3. They've outscored their opponent 72-0 after they defeated West Carroll in week 1. And it was Jake Sands. He returns the opening kickoff, 90 yards. He later scores not 1 but 2 rushing touchdowns, also caught one as Richland again cruised to a massive victory. The Raiders now get ready to head to the third round, where they will meet the number one team in the state, the McKenzie Rebels. It'll be a tall task, but it'll be a fun showdown between the Raiders and the Rebels over in West Tennessee. Meanwhile, over in East Tennessee, yours truly and Chris Bledsoe, we had the call, one of the great playoff games in Giles County Bobcat history, but unfortunately it comes in a loss. 24-21 at Meigs County. Styles make fights, they say, and this was two heavyweight squads duking it out all night long. Both teams like to run. Both teams are great at stopping the run. But in the end, one extra possession is what made the difference. As Meigs County gets an onside kick to start the game, they come down and score 7-0 there. They make it 10-0. Giles answers back with a short rushing touchdown from Xavier Randolph. And then GCHS trailed 17-7 at the half. Flash forward now into the third quarter, and the defense really started to click for Giles County, stopping Meigs County on 3 straight drives and clawing their way back in the game. They never took the lead, but they trimmed a double-digit deficit down to just 3 on 2 different occasions. We enter the fourth quarter, 24-21 is your score. Giles County is rolling on the offensive side of the ball, but on defense, finally their luck ran out, and Meigs County put together a massive drive, running the final 7 minutes and 15 seconds off the clock to preserve the victory. GCHS finishes the year 6-6. Caleb Oates had a touchdown as well. 2 touchdowns on the ground for Xavier Randolph. It was a great year for Giles County, but the Bobcats fall just shy in their bid for a 4th straight trip to the 3A semifinals. You can read about these at PulaskiCitizen.com, and we will have an update on the Richland Raiders later this week. Yours truly and Mark Mize will be in McKenzie Friday night. It's going to be a big-time showdown as the Raiders look to continue their postseason run. And that's all for now here from Main Street Media and Southern Middle Tennessee. Wade Neely saying so long. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Wade. All right, one more break. We've got a couple more reports to get to on the other side of this, so stick around here on the Main Street Preps High School Football Wrap-Up Show. Again, presented by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans, don't let fans drive drunk.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
He shoots, and he scores!
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new, handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
And we're back here for our final segment on the show. Thanks again for hanging out with us here on the Main Street Preps High School Football Wrap-Up Show. Again, I'm Chris Yao, and thanks to the Tennessee Highway Safety Office for allowing us to bring this to you each and every week on Main Street Media Television. Don't forget to download our app, MSM TV, Main Street Media TV, on your Apple, iPhone, Android, Google, whatever device, Amazon Fire Stick, wherever you get your streaming devices. You can download the Main Street Media TV app just by simply searching Main Street Media TV and looking for that MSM TV logo. All right, let's go now to Tommy Bryan, who has your Wilson County report.
Hello, everybody. This is Tommy Bryan, sports editor of the Wilson Post in Lebanon, and here's a look at how the second round of the playoffs turned out for Wilson County's only 2 participating teams. In Division II, Class A, Friendship Christian was eliminated by Donaldson Christian Academy by a score of 35-28. That game played at Pirtle Field. The Commanders ended the season with a record of 7-4, while DCA advances with a record of 10-2 to take on Columbia Academy. That game will be played in Maury County on Friday the 22nd. And Mount Juliet had some opportunities against Oakland. The Golden Bears led at one point by a score of 21-7. Penalties and a turnover hurt the Bears down the stretch as they wound up falling to Oakland by a score of 35-28 at Ray Hughes Stadium, ending the season for Mount Juliet with a record of 10-2. That ends it for football in Wilson County. It's on to basketball right now. So thanks for visiting with us throughout the season. I'm Tommy Bryan for Main Street Preps, and I will talk to you later.
Thanks, Tommy. Finally, Monte Hale is in Murfreesboro.
Hello, I'm Monte Hale, sports editor of the Murfreesboro Post, and here today to recap last week's high school football action. We're down to 3 teams, and 2 of them play each other. So this process is quite rapid once you get to this point in the season. A couple of our teams that went down last week included Eagleville. They lost 28-0 at McKenzie, one of the true state powers in 1A football. Although, despite the loss, the Eagles won a first-round game this year. They finished the season 8-4. They finished runner-up in their region, and they beat the region champion in the regular season. So a fine season for Eagleville. They've made the playoffs 15 of the last 16 years and 9 out of 10 times under current coach Floyd Walker. Middle Tennessee Christian School falls 50-27 at Nashville Christian. Of course, we've talked a lot this year about the Cougars rebuilding from last year's state championship team. They did a good job getting to this point in the playoffs and starting mostly freshmen and sophomores. The future certainly looks bright. Okay, Stewart's Creek 17, Brentwood 10 in overtime. Thrilling game, obviously a hard-hitting defensive game. Brentwood went up 10-3 on Stewart's Creek, but Stewart's Creek answered immediately with a 66-yard run, and then they scored first in overtime and kept the Bruins out. So Stewart's Creek advances. Riverdale 31, Blackman 17. This one was tied at halftime. Blackman ends its season at 6-6, but certainly a whole lot to build on, finishing 5-5 in the regular season and beating undefeated Green Hill on the road week 1 in the playoffs. Riverdale just a little too much for the Blaze the other night. In fact, their defense was outstanding. They only gave up 3 first downs in the second half. And finally, in a shootout, Oakland 35, Mount Juliet 28. The Bears from Wilson County actually led this game 21-7 at one point. It was a game dominated by DeJuan Morris. In fact, he accounted for all 5 of Oakland's touchdowns, 4 rushing on 228 yards, and he had a 100-yard kickoff return to boot. So we're down to 3 teams, Riverdale, Oakland, and Stewart's Creek. That's all that's remaining in the Class 6A quarterfinals that are about to approach. Again, I'm Monte Hale, sports editor of the Murfreesboro Post.
That's going to do it for this edition of the Main Street Preps High School Football Wrap-Up Show. Thanks again to our title sponsor, the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Remember, fans, don't let fans drive drunk. Make sure to download your version of the MSM TV app onto your mobile device or, of course, onto your smart television at home. And don't forget to listen to the high school football game of the week each and every week right here on Main Street Media TV. Until next time, I'm Chris Yao saying have a great day.
This is the Main Street Preps High School Football Wrap-Up Show, brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans, don't let fans drive drunk.